in the chat. So put your information in the chat so that Hudson Valley, our guests from Hudson Valley, will know what organizations are being represented here today. And we're going to have them. Good morning, Harris. Good to see you. And
good morning, Carolyn. Same here. Good to see you.
And so we're going to be very timely. It's a busy day for everybody. So Rebecca, put your her information is there. Thank you, Tim. A lot of people from the Housing Authority today. So if you would like, I'm going to just be timely. I'm going to give people maybe 1 more minute because as we can see, we've got like a rush on people coming in right at this moment. So going to at 9:02, and there we are. We're going. Is that okay, Tom? Maybe I'm rushing. You usually give us 5 minutes, okay? But we're going to go ahead and say good morning to our guests from Hudson Valley Community College, and ask them to introduce themselves. And you make your opening statements. We want to hear from you today. And then once you make an opening statement about how you envision this project and this initiative that's on where we are at the present time. And then we're going to open it up to the floor so that people can ask you questions. But we want to give you an opportunity to make those introductory remarks, to put us all on the same page as we start the conversation this morning. So Dr. Ransamy, we're going to ask you to just go ahead and get started.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So good morning, everyone. Thank you so very much for giving us the opportunity to speak to you and give an update of where we are today. I have with me, I am Roger Ransamy, President of Hudson Valley Community College. I have with me Mr.
Lewis Copeland, Vice President for Student Affairs at Hudson Valley Community College. Good morning.
Good morning. And we have online to Dr. Denise Pelosi. She's also online.
Good morning, everyone. I'm the Executive Director for the Capital District Educational Opportunity Center.
Very good. So I'm going to start off by trying to be as precise on terms of where we are right now with the project. As you all know, as you're aware, the city has put in for a grant which will be funding to help take down the towers. That grant was submitted last week. And in there, it would say that several groups, Hudson Valley, YMC, and several other entities are in there as partners who will like to work with Housing Authority and others to establish a presence down on that particular property once the buildings are cleared. We have no idea whether or not we're going to be given the grant or whether the grant will be awarded. And so first things first is to understand that this project is just a concept of what could happen working with the community on this end to establish something. To make sure that it stays in perspective, it is important that we understand that there's a possibility that the grant may not come through. Then what's the next steps? You see, what would happen? Everything goes on a standstill. We have to figure out from that point what would happen. So to understand, the first step is trying to figure out how to get these buildings safely down. And what happens after that is all conceptual at this point. No one really has any concrete ideas about what really would happen there, because we haven't even, there's several steps that many of us have to go through. First, the land belongs to the Housing Authority. It belongs to the community. All of these folks have to get together and begin a discussion about what really is needed on that particular site. We threw out things that is possible, but we haven't even got to the point where anything that we have decided have to go to several other places, such as SUNY, who have to approve our project, then to the state and others. So for us, concepts is all we could throw out, but really there's a long road to go before anything can happen. Meeting with the community, understanding the needs of the community, making sure that they are okay with what is being proposed. For them to understand who we are is all important in this process. These are, the way I look at it, it's years down the road. These are things that have to be done. It takes a long time to understand what needs to happen that will benefit the community in that region. Hudson Valley should be, if Hudson Valley is given an opportunity, we have to then be the one to work with the community and understand their needs, understand how to support the needs of the community. It just doesn't happen as laid out on a piece of paper saying that, you know, we're going to be in there, we're going to do this and that. Those things are just conceptual. It has to be thought of and discussed. And I'm not going to take it any much further because that's all that has happened really thus far. Although you may be reading about all these other things, really all that has happened so far is that a grant has been put in with the hope of having funds to take down the building. Nothing beyond that. I'd like to stop right there and turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And I guess as the all the persons and begin to raise their questions, they will raise their hands and ask to be admitted to ask questions of you. But I think first and foremost, people are just really they are anxious to hear from you. And many of these people were not able to attend the meeting at City Hall. So, but they've had some concerns and some questions, just want an understanding of how we're going to move forward to get to the, I know it's all a potential, it's an idea, it's a concept right now, but how is the community going to be engaged to help finalize that concept? We want to be optimistic that we do get the grant. And so we want to be prepared, you know, to receive it and to move forward. So I know that there are a number of questions that people have, and Laura, you're going to help me sort of maneuver this so that we can get as many questions in as possible. So for those of you who are going to be asking questions, we ask that you be very succinct in formulating the questions so we can get as many responses from Hudson Valley and from EOC and from Dr. Copeland as well, so that we can see how they are going to approach the community so that we can be fully engaged in helping them develop the final concept of what this is going to be. So with that said, I see that Tabitha has her hand raised, and I'm going to, because I'm starting right at the top of what I can see on my screen. And Laura, if I miss someone, you help me. So Tabitha Wilson has the first question.
Good morning, and thank you. I was just scanning briefly to see if there were any other hands, and seeing none, I just wanted to ask, I understood you stated there's nothing concrete, it's a proposal, it's a concept. And I understand that naturally, you know, Hudson Valley is situated in Troy, and so there is some concept of wanting to expand and have multiple sites. What about the South End made it a feasible site for you? Why did you want to expand into the South End, and what did you want to offer if at this early conceptual stage?
Again, keeping it real, which means the key word here, conceptual, right? Which means you're saying your question is based on the fact that the college would have already done its due diligence by working with the community to understand what will actually be we can bring in to support the community. Right at this particular moment, the college is willing to do an extension of its own EOC, which means we can extend an EOC out there. EOC brings a presence of supporting any community, doesn't matter where you are. It supports the community. It's one of those institutions where it's zero cost to students to come in and get very short-term training and be able to earn skills in various areas. Now, I don't know yet, because we haven't spoken to anyone, what those areas would be. Should we, based on a conceptual map, come in and extend our EOC, it could be anything that the community decides, or based on a needs assessment, that these are the needs of the community. Things such as whether it's an automotive program or welding program. There are so much things that have to be done on the port. For example, offshore wind is coming. There may be a great need for welders, and that may be one of the things that the community decide, well, we have a lot of kids down here who can do welding, and maybe that's one of the things that you want to start with, but I don't know just yet. It may be that we hear that GE is building equipment and there is a great need for some of these line workers and different things of that sort. Maybe these are the things that the community would feel that are a better serving of their needs when that time comes. So conceptually, what it would look like in bringing or extending the Hudson Valley's EOC over there will have to be based on the community and based on assessing the needs of that community when the time comes.
Yeah, I can chime in very quickly representing the EOC. It's also important that folks know that part of the mission of the EOC is to serve underserved communities, which is primarily the South End. That explains why we are located in the region where we are in Troy, and plan to be in the South End of Albany. We've targeted that area by design because we know that that is where our population lives.
Carolyn, there's some questions in the chat. Do you want me to read them out?
I did see one. I'll start as more come in. There's a question from Anita Thayer. She's a resident in the South End. She is asking, why are you considering a site on Albany West, such as Albany West, HVCC West, as I'll call it, when enrollment at Hudson Valley is declining?
I think that's not true. That's not of it. HVCC is actually see an increase in enrollment. It's one of the only colleges of all that is actually having a plus increase. We had a plus increase last year, plus increase this year, and it's booming at the college. So that's not true. That's false information.
Okay, and the other question that currently sits there, there's a right across the street from the site that you're considering, it's 15 Warren Street. Did you ever consider that site as a possible alternative to the housing site?
So for us, we have seen, for the last 4 years, Hudson Valley have been working with the city. We have visited maybe 12, 13 different buildings that was given to us as possible sites. Unfortunately, most of our programs require special types of infrastructure in order for them to be established. If you're talking about an automotive program, if you're talking about a welding program or any of those, they require an infrastructure that has to be built from probably at the very offsetting of the building. Most of these buildings were constructed and the infrastructure will not support the addition of those kinds of skill-based programs. So therefore, having a site that's cleared and giving the college an opportunity to establish the building from grounds up is what we need to do. So I don't know where 15 Warren Street is. However, I do know from based on studies where that's the specific area that was shown where the towers are, it seemed ideal for the college to establish its infrastructure.
Thank you so much. There was a question about EOC and the Educational Opportunity Center. So for people who are not familiar with that, Dr. Palazzi, could you give us just some overview of EOC? There may be some people on here who don't have any experience with it. And could you give us a brief overview? And then we have on deck Harris Oberlander from Trinity Alliance after you speak.
My pleasure. So the Capital District Educational Opportunity Center is a community-based organization that provides educational training in both the trades and basic academic skills. So we have GED, ESL training, in addition to programs such as culinary, CNA, building trades, welding, etc. We have been in business for now over 50 years, And my predecessor, Dr. Lucille Marion, who was here for 27 years, really brought the Capital District EOC to the next level and thus expanded it from the Troy location to also a current Albany location on North Russell Road. That location is going to be running out its lease in August of this year, which is also the motivation for us to look for additional space in an area of Albany that is best suited to the needs of our students. All of our programming is free. We feed our students every day a hot meal for free. We offer job placement, post-secondary preparation. We are the feeder program for Hudson Valley Community College and a place for our students to get started and then move on with their lives and see success. And by the way, the EOC has also experienced an increase in enrollment. Last year, we ended the year with just over 400 students. Already, we've exceeded that enrollment and we are beyond 500 students as of today.
And I just might want to add also the 15 Warren Street address, which is directly across from the 20 Warren Street location. We had the opportunity to tour that site, and it was determined that it wasn't feasible for what the plans are, or from the standpoint of renovation, it just wasn't within a budgetary price range. So we did a walkthrough. It wasn't to our liking, so to speak, and we did get a chance to take a walk around and walk through with our architect.
Thank you. So we're going to hear from Harris, and then after Harris, Laura, if you would read any other questions that might be sitting in the chat after we hear from Harris.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. So I'm sure you're aware of the BOCES presence at the Capital South Campus Center. My question, and I have a second one, is what, if any, conversation has taken place with BOCES about the relationship, continuity of program, and so on and so forth? And do you see a relationship there? As well as what relationship and utility do you see in terms of relationships with nonprofits that are in the space working with individuals that come with different kinds of needs and strengths that we're addressing in terms of a relationship to help your students should they become enrolled, should this all materialize?
So to start with, what I've heard from Council Member Derek, Derek Johnson, he shared with us, and this is his information. I'm not familiar with what goes on at the Capitol Center, that he has established that over the last years, nothing has been going on much there other than a few sub-entities that are in there. These are from him. And that many of the colleges, over 8 or 9 of them, were supposed to be in that building supporting education, supporting training to the community, and it hasn't happened. And I explained to him when he asked, well, why would HBCC come in and make any difference? I explained to him that when you put 8 different institutions, such as a community college, inside of one building, what do you think? Who is really in charge when you put 8 entities all competing amongst each other? What do you think the end result to something like that would be? If Hudson Valley on its own, given the charge, would have done what it's supposed to do and can easily be the one that will be at fault if they had seen this happen. You said BOCES is currently in charge. Well, that was under BOCES management. I can't speak for any of those entities. This was going on beyond my, before I got here. I can assure you, however, that now that we're here, we will, given any charge, we will demonstrate what HBCC does in terms of involving the community in anything that we do. Currently, on our main campus here and in the ACE Center over in Russell Road, we have entities in our community, groups that are on our campuses and on our property serving the community. And let me give you some examples. Currently, we built the Veterans Center on our campus that serve all veterans, provide them various support in ways, support from finding jobs to get small training, whatever the needs are. We have our workforce training center from Troy, from the county in our building. Zero cost to these individuals as they're here working with the college and working with members from the community to service them and provide them any needed support. We have the Capital Region International office on our campus, absolutely free, servicing the community and the entire region for groups coming from all over the world. We have 100 Black men on our campus helping to mentor kids inside of our region. We have been reaching out to other entities. We provide service to many, utilizing our facilities for meetings. Many of the churches are here on Saturday and Sundays, utilizing our facilities. And there is no cost to these individuals. They're here and we engage our community inside the college to work with them to make the events even much more productive. So when you ask, what do we do? That is who we are. We are Hudson Valley, and listen to the piece, community college, which means we serve the unity and community by providing our service to everyone that belong to our capital region and more. That's who we are, and we continue to do that. The EOC is under our management at the college, and we provide the same opportunities down at our EOC, meaning that the EOC is engaged in several support services to the community continuously. So again, that's who we are and that's what we do. And wherever we go, we will continue to be that, provide that kind of service.
And just to further what
Thank you.
Dr. Ramsamy is offering, one of the concerns and I'll say complaints that we heard at the two most recent council meetings was a lack of community involvement. There were from some frustrated statements from several members of the community sharing with us and all those who were there that they were not familiar with the project, the very concept that we're talking about. One of our goals moving forward, even before the grant is approved, is to start scheduling what we're calling town hall discussions, either on campus and or within the South End community, to have this very conversation, to talk about what's missing, what's lacking, hear the frustrations, and as we move forward, the idea is to take what we're hearing and make that part of our long-term planning for the South End site.
Thank you. So Tracy had a question in the chat and then Trayvon had his hand up, and Tracy asked whether priority would be given to students from the 12202 zip code and or City of Albany residents. And then Trayvon, you would have the floor after that.
When the college opened its doors, it opened to every single individual, no matter where you're from which background, from which income level, everyone has an access to HVCC and its EOCs.
Trayvon, you can go, but also Joanne had a question, Tabitha, in the chat too. I don't know if you want to read that first.
Okay, I was gonna, I saw his
Joanne?
hand go up first.
Wait, Trayvon, go ahead.
Yep.
Trayvon.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. I appreciate Dr. Ramsamy and Mr. Copeland taking the time to come here today. I also appreciate Dr. Ramsamy taking the time to reach out from his office and call and connect with me through some phone tag to address the concerns that they bring up from the meetings and the conversation about the project. As a South Troy boy myself, I want to reiterate the amazing things that Hudson Valley up the street from me, my entire childhood, has done and continues to do. And I also want to recognize the overwhelming positive feelings that pretty much anyone from Troy has about that EOC building and program that operated there for so many years. The trouble with development and planning is that good occupants get caught up in process. And it was not HVCC's job to steer this project outreach and development process to the point of making the application for this grant. And based on what I hear from the folks from Hudson Valley Community College, that was not their intention nor their goal. So that's what I have to believe. When we talk specifically about the project in the neighborhood, speaking from my roles at the African American Cultural Center, at the South End Grocery Appalachia from a development and planning lens. My hesitance about the project, misrepresentation of support letters from the DRI notwithstanding, is about the scope. I actually think there is a larger scale project, potentially more directly located on South Pearl via partnership with the Community Loan Fund, partners like the CDYMCA and others, that wouldn't appear to be jumping the line of other nonprofit projects that were discussed during the DRI process that yielded this grant application. And that's more of a shout out and an ode to the other nonprofit organizations that also went through process than it is an actual procedural hurdle. I think we all know at this point, with the project being housed out of Capitalized Albany, if they're going to move forward, they will move forward. So what do we do in the meantime to ensure we have the best decorum, the best rapport, and the best understanding amongst what appear to be like-minded people in this conversation this morning? So in some way, if the HVCC West project can pull in nonprofit organizations from the DRI process, who also pitched ideas around this time, who also have been looking to lay stake claim to buildings like 15 Warren, and who also have been negotiating with the Housing Authority and similar partners to put down true stakes in this neighborhood. Those are the people I would love to see included in a more formative fashion. As Legislator McLaughlin has said, there is still time to do that. I just hope we do it with our eyes wide open. I hope we do it more directly in conversations like this, and the doctor reaching out and calling me, than going through a planning process that leads to the friction we all witnessed at the council meeting. We don't want to keep picking up pieces. We want to lay tracks. And I hope today is the start of that. I reiterate my support for Hudson Valley as a lifelong product of South Troy, down the street from the college. And it's my hope that those two communities, if not just for my personal connection, but for the betterment of the South End, could join themselves, combine, and truly get the best out of both partners. And to be candid, I think the best way to do that is to not involve a municipal planning and development agency. It's to have direct conversation with like-minded people. And I thank you for that this morning.
Well, Vice President Copeland did say that the next step for them is to plan to set up community meetings where everyone can interact, just as you just indicated, Trayvon. So we look forward to that, and we're going to make sure that they have a complete listing, not only of people who are on this Zoom this morning, but also others that have a strong interest. So we'll do our part to help them do their outreach, to make sure that everybody's included in the meetings that we anticipate that are going to begin very soon. Because again, we're preliminary, but we want to be part from the beginning. The people want to be a part from the start, not after being an afterthought. So that is so important. And it's important to the issue of accountability for how we want to make sure that as we look to Hudson Valley, any questions that we have, they can be answered. And when things do not pan out the way they have been presented to us, how do we ensure that we don't go down the path of past experience where people were not held accountable for what they put out to us but did not deliver? So I look forward to those community conversations. I know there's a question in the chat from Joanne Morton from the South End Neighborhood Association. And then I think we have Laura, I think your hand is raised, and Brian also has his hand raised.
It's Joanne, then Kerwin, then Anita's question, then me, then Brian.
Okay, thank you so much.
Joanne asked how many students will be served, what is the income requirements?
Again, too premature, because on our main campus here, for example, we can serve as many students that walk into our doors. We have the ability to adjust easily. Say on our EOC campus, our EOC campus is restricted based on how much students can come into a program. So those things can be established. Again, it just depends on what is agreed upon that we start with. If, for example, if you start with a welding program may have, the ability to run 12 students per session, but you may be able to run 2 classes, one in the day, one in the evening, or more based on that. But it really depends on what the programs are, okay, that's coming in.
And for the EOC, there is an income requirement. It's the same as folks would sign up for TANF or any other type of social program. But when the student becomes income eligible, they have access to all of the EOC programs. And then we facilitate the transition from the EOC to Hudson Valley so that we can make sure that there's an opportunity for them to complete their financial aid process and qualify for the federal grants and the loans necessary for them to complete their education.
Kerwin, I believe is next. Is that right, Laura?
Yeah, Kerwin, let me see if I can, Kerwin's question is, should this project move ahead, considering that the 60 million for the project will be attained through fundraising? Will HVCC be willing to commit to raising additional funding simultaneously for community-based not-for-profits currently in need of funding to continue their much-needed work within the community, workforce development, wraparound services, etc.?
Awesome.
You know, again, very premature for us to try to figure out what the first phase is. I think we established that from our folks that if we were to come in based on, you know, some needs, conceptual needs, again, because again, we haven't discussed anything with the community, but the conceptual structure that we could come in with that would facilitate community support centers or EOC training, if we were to start with that, would be around a structure about 60 million. Now, that could be more, it could be less. It just depends on what is it that we finalize on our first phase. But again, it's so conceptualized. We haven't even speak to anyone in our community just yet to, you know, to have a clear-cut idea. We haven't been given space or confirmed that that's going to happen. I really feel it's very premature for us to even think about what's going to happen. However, when HVCC decides, if there's a decision as to HVCC coming in and there is something that has to be done, it would be on the college to raise the funding to establish whatever structure goes there, whether it's a 60 million, whether it's 30 million, or whether it's more. It would be on the college to figure out how to work to earn that building structure. That's what we do. We've been doing for every building that you see on our campus or in Troy.
I'm going to combine Anita and Valerie's question, although I realize you stated a lot of these are premature because they're so much in the conceptual stage. Would the services at the EOC duplicate the training of the MAPS program? Have you done any investigation or research into the needs of South End residents or trainings that are currently available? And an additional question is, will this have a reentry program or component for incarcerated people returning to the community?
Those are 2 great questions. The EOC actually visited MAPS in the South End of Albany just a couple of months ago, primarily to introduce ourselves so that the folks at MAPS knows the types of programs that the EOC offers. We are never interested in duplicating services. That doesn't serve anyone's best interest. If anything, we're interested in partnering and finding ways that we can leverage what's already present and then provide additional wraparound services around the programs that already exist. So our conversation with the folks at MAPS were, hey, if we were to ever come to the South End of Albany, we don't want to do another building trades program. Their program is excellent. Instead, what we would want to do is take those current students and provide additional wraparound services. So those are things like free food, free access to counseling, free, if we partner up with the Capital District YMCA, make sure we have free childcare available. So making sure that we provide all of these wraparound services to the programs that already exist. And as far as incarcerated youth and incarcerated people's justice involved people, yes, again, we've already established relationships with community groups that serve those populations so that we can be certain to bring them into our programs and have them have access to our programs.
Yes, and just to add to Denise's comments, we have a proud history at the EOC and the campus of open access, offering individuals who have made poor choices, for lack of a better term, and are looking to, as they return home, resume their lifestyles, assimilate back to society, find employable opportunities, educational opportunities. Over 25, 30 years, we've always opened our doors to students, people who are returning home from either substance abuse facilities and or incarceration. So we're looking forward to continue to strengthen those relationships.
And I just want to follow up with, since we're going down the vein of the questions online, and a concept that's very important to people in the community is the community benefits agreement. So there's a question as to would Hudson Valley be interested in entering into a community benefits agreement as this project gets further developed?
Can you define and describe more specifically what that means?
It's a concept where they're actually in concert with you and all the parties involved, and the community gets together and decides, looks at those things that the community views that outside of the project itself, what other kind of offerings can be made to the community? Is there an opportunity for a community center? Is there some linkage that might be added to green space, additional green space in the community? Is there some other environmental issues that might be addressed? Are there opportunities for, maybe there might be even some opportunities for some housing around the campus? All projects that would be molded into your project that go along with outside, just moving away from just the college campus itself, but what other, the neighboring community, what can it expect to be a benefit to them as a result of HVCC West coming into the South End? And let the community have a stake. Tell you what those things are. You said earlier, how can we say, what's missing? Can you help us fill some of the gaps through this project?
I'll respond first. And as Dr. Ramsamy said a minute ago, these are preliminary conversations, obviously, but I'd like to add that I think the sky's the limit. I think once we continue to hear what the needs of the community are, and we're serious about coming into the neighborhood, and we're serious about having those open sessions on our campus as well as within the community. Once we continue on with this process, the end product will be community driven. The end product will be what we're hearing today and what we expect to hear moving forward. All that will be incorporated with the final design. So the sky's the limit. We want to hear more. We're encouraging you all to share with your constituents within the South End to be part of this conversation, be part of this planning process. It could be all the things that you just defined it, and then some.
Tom has a question in the chat, and then Brian has his hand up. Tom's question is, I would like the HVCC folks to discuss their past and current discussions with Marmon and GE regarding training for Albany residents for their new production facilities. The wind tower factory at the Port of Albany will be in construction this year. The job training needs to start ASAP, no matter where the training takes place, but it would be much more effective if it were local.
Yeah. So this is a prime example of how HBCC tried to make sure that we engage with the community, engage with the organizations that want the support that they need. We've been working with Marmon. The moment we heard about the offshore wind, our team went up to Marmon in Quebec City and visited them and had that discussion. We also visited Welcon in Denmark and had the discussion with them of what are their needs so that we can cater for them through our workforce training program. And so we came back down, we understood the needs, we took it back out to our community and began working by providing scholarship funds and different forms of for kids to come in and be able to get that training and go out and support what the offshore wind industry is requiring of us. We have the line work that is being done by Nexum. We again did the same thing, went down, met with the Nexum folks and understood their needs, and we are now assessing how to establish grounds for them. Remember, the offshore wind is, a lot of these things are happening right down in the Port of Albany. So having a facility, having a support system very close by, that where kids in that neighborhood could actually be trained and put right into the port to work is a major benefit to everyone down there. That is something that could be considered. But again, all conceptual, all things that are possible, but a perfect example of something that the community might like and might encourage us and might work with us to support. But again, a little bit premature to figure out until we meet and have that discussion.
Just to give a time, it's 9:41, and we will leave a few minutes at the end of the meeting for announcements. Tabitha was suggesting 9:45 cutoff. We have Brian, Lauren, and Fred and Stack. So I just want to let people know if you have questions, now is the time to get them in, because we're running down on time. Brian, go ahead.
Not necessarily such a question. I'll go real quick to Dr. Ansami, VP Copeland, Dr. Fernandez Polozzi. Thank you both, all of you, for being here today. As you know, I'm a huge partner with Hudson Valley Community College, along with all of our educational providers in the area. And I think what folks do need to remember is we are blessed in this area to have great educational partners that are on the forefront of really moving the needle in terms of what we're doing. We have been talking on our Friday workforce groups for over a year now of the need of workforce training centers in the south end of Albany. And I am a huge proponent of the educational opportunity centers across the state. The work, and I have been for years, the work that they do, the connections with the businesses, being a very business-driven system is important to listen to the businesses so we can get folks connected to, whether it be offshore wind, whether it be human services, whether it be manufacturing, whether it be construction trades. And, one thing that, when Dr. Ansami first came to the college, he heard from me ad nauseum of everything that happens at Hudson Valley Community College is workforce development. And him and I share that vision in that respect. So I think I appreciate the fact that Hudson Valley is here. So this can start the conversations with the community. And I do believe that this will continue in terms of, as Lewis has mentioned, the conversations with the community are super important because the needs of the individuals, the customers we're serving, really is going to drive what we're doing here. So again, very preliminary. I know these conversations, so I appreciate you all stopping down. And I hope that we continue these conversations because I think it's super important from the community standpoint.
Thank you.
Lauren?
I just wanted to know, did I hear correctly that the EOC building lease is coming up in August of this year? And where is it, or what is it that what is your next plan after that regarding continuing to provide that service and that training?
So that is correct. The EOC lease at our Albany location is up in August. We currently serve over 125 ESL students, and this is another very good example of how we partner with the community. We partnered up with RISE, the Refugee and Immigrant Support Services of Emmaus. We did not replicate or duplicate services and create another ESL class. No, we took their ESL program and we embedded it inside of our EOC facility and then provided those students with wraparound services. So what we're going to be doing is looking for another location to provide ESL to those students. We know that this project is not going to come to fruition in time to provide a space for those students. So we're actively looking in the South End at multiple locations to see what might be the best fit.
Fred?
Hi, thank you very much. I appreciate everyone being here from Hudson Valley. And I live in the South End, and I work for a community group that serves people, including folks at the South End. So I guess just a couple of things I just want to share. One is that the city of Albany is currently in a housing crisis. We at Focus Churches operate a soup kitchen, and we serve mostly people who are homeless or housing insecure. 1 year ago at breakfast, we were serving 32 people a morning. This morning, we served over 110 people. We've been averaging more than 100 people coming with this housing crisis. I'm bringing this up because the presumption had been that this space along Morton Avenue was going to be a mix of housing as well as an education center. And the housing portion of this has been missing from the conversation this morning, and it's also was missing from the conversation at the Common Council meeting as well. The concern is all these families and households were moved out of these public housing buildings on Morton Avenue, removed elsewhere, placed elsewhere, and we just lack sufficient affordable housing in Albany. So my hope is that whatever the plan is going forward, that it takes into account that a significant portion of the land along Morton Avenue is used for affordable housing for South End residents. The second thing that I just like to share quickly is that a lot of us living in the South End have had these conversations before a number of years ago related to the Capital South Campus Center. And we were told by the city and by the county and Albany Housing Authority about what a wonderful community-oriented space this was going to be. And initially it was. When Trinity Alliance was managing the site, this was very community-oriented. I'm part of different neighborhood groups and we were able to meet there and it was great. It was welcoming, people coming in and out, job training classes, et cetera. But then when BOCES became the management of the building, that was no longer accessible to the community. I mean, when a local neighborhood association wanted to meet there, they were told, no, you can't. And it's not accessible. And so my concern, besides the housing element, is also to make sure that whatever is constructed there, whether it's Hudson Valley or another entity, that it really is accessible to the entire community. Again, thanks so much for you taking your time to be with us this morning.
And you know, to that end, Fred, I just want to say that we've all had some really strong experience with the Capital South Campus Center. And I, for one, as someone who represents part of this area, I'm looking at Hudson Valley as a new partner. This is a new initiative that we are at the ground level, and those concerns that are being raised by everyone here and others that we're going to hear from in the future, in the near future, that you're responsible for what you hear. So Hudson Valley will hear everything, I believe, that will help them make the decisions going forward on this project. And we as a community must hold them accountable. We don't, if no one else does it, we as a community have to hold them accountable. But by them being here today and willing to listen and to gain as much information as they can, because what we're saying today will help them build an application. We're providing them with information, but we have to hold them accountable. And we and I look forward to the community doing that. This project is not the answer to everything that is needed in the South End, but it can meet a lot of needs. And we have to do what we can to make sure that they have sufficient information and support to help us achieve this goal. I hear everything you say, Fred, and some of us on here are very sensitive about what happened with the Capital South Campus Center. And we're going to be working to try to improve some of those relationships as we go forward. Tom, I see your hand is up, and so I'm just going to be quiet and move on.
Well, Carolyn, thank you for setting the stage for what basically, I just want to mention a few things about process. There were 75 people on this call, which is a new record for us. This is one aspect of how the South End is working together, but it's only one aspect. Obviously, we work very closely with the South End Neighborhood Association and with community groups like A Village, Youth FX, the Radix Center, Trinity. All of these groups have real solid connections with people in the community. We're going to need to use all of those various avenues as we go forward so that Hudson Valley gets a good idea of what the community wants and needs, and we can do that. I'm very pleased with the level of leadership that we have in the South End and the level of cooperation. So I just want to make that mention. The other thing I want to add, going back to what Fred said, we also have a housing committee, which is working on several avenues to address this affordable housing shortage, which is acute. Not all of the solution lies with Albany Housing Authority, although Albany Housing Authority has been historically a great partner for the South End. But we need to create more affordable home ownership. And we need to improve the housing that we have here in the South End, and we need to address the vacant building issue in a way that we just haven't been able to do so far. All of those things are in the works. We invite anybody to be involved in that. There'll be a meeting set up very soon, and we'll send out the announcement for that. But this is something that the South End community is acutely aware of and is working very hard on. Thanks. Oh, and I just want to add my thanks for you all coming on. I think this is the way we hope to see this partnership evolve.
Thank you.
Laura, are there any questions remaining in the chat?
Tabitha, correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is that Tabitha has 2 announcements that she would like to do after we wrap this up. So I think that Carolyn, you should wrap up this portion of the meeting and then we can go to announcements. Is that your understanding, Tabitha?
I don't see any more questions, just some commentary, unless, now it's raise your hand or speak now, because we have like 9 minutes.
Well, as people are thinking about that, I too want to thank Hudson Valley, the president, the vice president, and Dr. Palazzi for being here and opening up the dialogue. I believe that this will give you a good sense of who is interested, who you're going to be seeing at the meetings that you're going to be planning, the kind of interest that we have. And we want to help you have a successful project. Should this application be successful, we want to be a part of it. There are going to be some other questions coming up. And so this is a very involved community. This is a very involved collaborative. So it might get a little heated down the road, but it's all in the name of getting a successful project. I think we're here to work collaboratively, as the name of the organization indicates. And so we are willing to be partners in this. I think that it can go a long way, and we will be able to help you as you help our community. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to give some closing remarks and give us the next steps of what we can look forward to hearing from you in the near future.
Well, I'm going to let Dr. Pelosi wrap up for us, but I do thank all of you for the opportunity to be here and to answer questions. Dr. Pelosi.
Thank you. One thing that we did not get to mention during this call that I want to make sure everyone knows and understands is that Dr. Ramsamy and Vice President Copeland have graciously put together an opportunity for all of our community members to board a bus and come to the Troy location of the EOC. This is a visceral experience for folks because there's so many questions and people may not really understand what an EOC does and how we do it. We meet the needs of the community, and we do so in a very holistic way with a lot of love, tenderness, caring, but at the same time providing education to our students, to a very diverse population, and a population that has traditionally been underserved. We would invite you, and we would love to see you join us for that opportunity here at our campus. Those details will be forthcoming, and I know that will be shared with this group. Other than that, thank you for having us today.
Tabitha, do you have some announcements?
I do. Thank you. That was an excellent discussion. Thank you, Grace. Thank you so much for being our host, Carolyn. Outstanding as always. And I want to make one announcement. I know Bill typically has one. I won't take up all the space, and then I'll circle back with my second one. First is, of course, as you may know, the City School District of Albany is conducting a superintendent search. Part of that process is engaging the community, and there will be forums and things of that nature coming up that'll be on site and also situated in the community. But very important, there's 71 people on this call. I'm earnestly asking you all to share this in your networks. This survey that I posted in the link is open until February 10th. So for 71 people, that's 71 touch points into the community. That's at least 100 people each. We can very much get, for a very short survey, a diverse, visceral response, hopefully, to people, what they want to see, what they feel is being done well, what they want to see done differently. And I'm urging you all to please fill that out and share it in your networks. And it'll be immensely helpful for us as we continue this process. And I'm asking Tom to make this like a standing part of like his announcement with the SCCC so that people on the list can see it and remember to share it. And I think Bill almost always has announcements, so I'll go to him and anyone else who has announcements, and you can circle back to me.
Thanks, Tabitha. I just wanted to let you know that I have not yet received the February schedule for the big food distribution. And as soon as I get that, I will forward that to the membership. Thanks, Tabitha.
Tabitha, we got 4 minutes to spare. So what else have you got?
Sure. Our second Voices of a Village is actually 2 parts. It's a 2-part conversation with the Albany CPRB, Reimagining Public Safety Through Community Oversight. Our panelists for February 15th will be Barbara Smith, Nairobi Vives, Mark Mishler, also Anthony Buccicello from the Albany, the Deputy Chief, as well as Joseph Iacona, who is the Office of Professional Standards Commander. And the second part, we're building out that panel, so that's to be announced. But this is a very important conversation for our community to understand what the CPRB does, where it emerged from, its history, what local law J impacts will be, and for them to just get a greater understanding about this one branch of government, obviously. And I think it's ultimately, we started planning this many months ago, but as you can see, it's probably very timely as we are in a very, again, emotional time of social activism in light of the one national news, but ongoing news about police brutality, as we can see, but the unfortunate happening to Tyree Nichols. So I think it's a timely discussion and people can direct their concerns, complaints, questions here as we have this meeting coming up. And please, again, share this in your networks as well.
Yes, and Joanne just reminded us of the South End Neighborhood Association, which is meeting tonight at 6 p.m.
Joanne, is that a Zoom link or are we meeting at the Salvation Army? All right, it's a Zoom link, so keep a lookout on your emails for the SENA meeting tonight.
Dr. Palazzi, I guess you can see the kinds of things that are going to be so important in this discussion as we go forward. If you listen to some of the things that are coming across this meeting this morning. And I am just so excited. Thank you all, everyone, for being here this morning and giving the Hudson Valley the opportunity to share. This is just the first conversation via Zoom for this project with the SECC. But I know that we're going to have robust conversations going forward. And I hope as many people as possible will take advantage of the opportunity to go to visit SCC, the HVCC, when that opportunity is presented to all of us.
All right, I think that is it. We have 2 minutes. Any last announcements, comments?
Oh, I have one. The Black Chamber of Commerce is having their open house grand opening ribbon cutting on Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Yes, that's tomorrow, isn't it? I hope I got the date right. Oh,
that's right.
Yes, and so we would encourage everyone to go and see the new facility. That's the former, oh God, it draws a blank. It's at Dove Street and Washington Avenue. Who can help me remember the name of what it used to be? But now it's now the Albany.
The University Club.
The University Club, formerly University Club, is now the Albany Black Chamber of Commerce location. Wow. And they, from 10 to 1 on tomorrow, from 10 to 1, an open house so that you can see the facility that they have. Now, that will be available. It's it will be the Chamber and Social Club. It will be available for community use, but that's where they will be operating out of. We're very excited about it. I know I am as a community member, and I think that they'll be a good partner for this project as well, I think, going forward.
All right, that's it. It's 10 o'clock, same time, same place. go to all the things that were announced, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Tabitha.